Hello. Today's lesson is going to be on Hinduism and how it developed from a basic belief system developed by the Aryans into one of the most influential religions in world history. When we look at Hinduism, there's a couple of things we have to focus on first. One, how it was developed by the Aryans. That does play a large role in what makes this religion what it is today. The Aryans developed the foundational pieces, most notably the fact that it was polytheistic, the caste system, and a lot of other pieces that are still part of the Hindu faith today. It has since become the largest religion in all of India and one of the largest religions in the world. Over 900 million Hindus are located in India. Now, India also has Islam and other religions there as well, but neither Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, none of those religions are even close to the impact that Hinduism has had on the development of India. And the reason for that is because Hinduism was more than a religion. It is a way of life, meaning that people practice, they pray, they eat, all in a ritualistic manner. They follow the beliefs of their religion, and it plays a role in how they function as a society today. There is no single founder, unlike Christianity or unlike Islam, where they each have Jesus Christ and Muhammad. When we look at Hinduism, there is no central authority. There is no single founder. There is nothing about who created it. The Aryans do get credit for creating the foundation, but unlike other religions, there is no main person. There's also no main written work. There's a number of stories that were told orally and eventually written down, but unlike the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, Hinduism does not have a book like that. So that's one of the things that makes Hinduism so interesting when we study it. These are two more images of their gods, and believe me, there are thousands of gods, well over 3,000 in the Hindu faith, all of them helping the Hindus themselves understand how the world was created and what it means. Now, when we look at the sources of Hinduism, we try to figure out what allowed the stories to travel from year to year. The Vedas were the oral tradition that was eventually written down. It's actually where we get a lot of our understanding about the Aryan people and how this religion itself began to develop. Two, we can look at the Upanishads. It's literally their explanation of how the world was created. And we also have the Ramayana. These things here are all pieces of evidence that allow historians to gauge an understanding of not only the Aryans, but where the Hindu religion comes from. Now, they, like all religions, they have some chief religious ideas. Their most important idea that they share with Buddhism is reincarnation. The belief that once a person dies, their soul is reincarnated into another being. Now, depending on how well they live their life, that's going to play a role in where they are reincarnated. And the way we learn about that is through a term called karma. Now, another piece of the religious ideas is called the samsara. This means that once you live the perfect life, there is no longer reincarnation. Your soul emanates and you become energy in the universe. All right? Moksha is the ultimate achievement of salvation. And these last two beliefs, karma and dharma, can be found in both Hinduism and Buddhism. Karma is the belief that what you do in this life will impact you in the next. And the reason that plays such a role is because if a person obeys the rules in this life, when they die, their soul is reincarnated into a higher caste. If, however, they live an immoral life or do bad things, their soul is reincarnated into a lower class, which is why karma is so important in the Hindu faith. Dharma also plays a role in it because this basically states your moral obligations as a person, meaning that you are supposed to do these certain things, and if you do, that's good karma. Once you have good karma, when you die, your soul is reincarnated into a greater caste. So you can easily understand why the Hindu people believe that living a moral and upstanding life, following the rituals, following their religion by the letter, is their most important goal. And this, of course, has a role in developing, this religion, especially in the area in India. Now, Hinduism did not just stay in India. It eventually did spread because of the development of trade routes that later appeared, most notably in the Indian Ocean trade or over the Silk Road. But Hinduism was never able to become as popular in other areas as it was in India. Now, when we look at the practices of the Hindus, there's a couple of things in particular that you also need to pay attention to. They are patriarchal. This is no different than China, no different than Mesopotamia, Egypt. Every society we've talked about so far is patriarchal, which is, of course, man-dominated. The cow is a very, very sacred part of their life. And the reason that it is because they see it as the provider, because it gives life in many, many ways. Hindus are vegetarians also, meaning that they eat certain foods that allow them to, again, follow the Dharma, which leads to good karma, which leads to good reincarnation. They wash their feet and hands before praying. They also bathe in the Ganges River and other sacred shrines around India. And the purpose of this, of course, is to cleanse them. And the belief that once this cleansing happens, it's another part of their moral obligation or dharma that could help their karma and, of course, improve their chances for reincarnation. Now, one of the most controversial rituals is this ritual called sati. Sati is the belief where a man dies that his wife should commit suicide with him. This, of course, is a very controversial belief. Most people do not like this idea, especially Western cultures. But this ritual went on well into the 1900s. And it might even still go on today. There are rumors that, of course, it still does happen in traditional areas. But when we go back thousands of years ago, it was absolutely customary for a woman to commit suicide. If a woman did not, she was going to fall into the untouchable caste, meaning that she is unwanted and she did not follow her dharma, therefore would have bad karma. And when she was reincarnated, her soul would drop to a lower caste. So rituals, even as crazy as this, or controversial as this, play a role in someone's dharma, karma, and where they get reincarnated. The last piece is the caste system. Now we know that the Aryans created it, and in these 5 castes we have the Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and the Dalit, also known as the Untouchables. Now when you look at this chart, it tells you basically who falls into what. The priests, the academics, basically the well-educated, warrior kings, the Kshatriyas, they're second class. The Vaishyas, you can be business community. More importantly, you can put the peasants, merchants, artisans in there. Shudras are the servants. But then you look at the Untouchables, and they are the worst of the worst in the eyes of the Indians. These people are outcasts, basically women who do not commit sati when their husband dies. They would fall into Untouchables. But also people who are unwanted. All right. Now, once you are born into a caste, you are stuck there for life. You cannot marry out. As a matter of fact, it's frowned upon for anyone from one caste to speak to someone from another caste. It's literally where you stay in that caste your whole life. So if your father's a warrior, then you're a warrior, your son's a warrior, etc. And you're expected to marry the daughters of warriors. Now, the Untouchables, unfortunately, they were not seen in the same light. They were not allowed to worship in temples. As a matter of fact, they were asked to worship outside of temples. Even though their religion was the same, it's the fact that they were deemed an untouchable that made them unwanted and outcasts. They literally worked the lowest occupations, most notably, they dealt with tanning. They would tan like belts. They would peel the skin off of animals, and they would use the hide for belts and things like that. So they also swept the streets. These are the lowest of the low. So when you look at the caste system, it is one of the few attributes of the religion that still stands to this day. Although we in Western culture believe in equality, and you're going to see when we talk about other civilizations later how they vary, this religion itself determined that this caste system was the way life should be, and it still functions even today in 2012. So when we look at the development of this religion, you need to know a couple of things. 1, Hinduism is extremely important. 2, Hinduism is still around. And 3, Hinduism is the third most popular religion in the world. First being Christianity, then Islam, and then Hinduism. Alright, so that's it for Hinduism. Our next topic is going to be Buddhism. Please check out my website at www.mrhubshistory.com. Alright, if there's any questions, you can email me. My email's on the site. I'll talk to you soon.